through his 42nd game for Brazil, and to a large degree the 60,000 who've paid to be in here have already seen what they came for. There'll be another decent gathering, I'm sure, in Edinburgh on Saturday for our live Scottish Premiership game from Tynecastle. It is Hearts against the champion Celtic, and it's live on BT Sport 2 HD from midday on Saturday. Interesting to see when and whether many of those substitutes re-emerging now for Brazil will be used in the second half. From a neutral perspective, it would be a shame, Clive, if there were too many alterations. 6 are available, and it looks to me as though the core of that Brazilian side, if not its entirety, is emerging together.
Yeah, and that'll be good to see, because I think the intensity and the commitment from both sets of players has been absolutely spectacular. When you consider they're here in Massachusetts tonight, playing in what is a prestigious friendly, but it's being played in the right manner. Good test for Brazil early on. You know, Portugal put them under pressure, asked questions of them, certainly defensively, but this man with a most wondrous goal has really enlightened the whole place, and a fantastic 45 minutes we saw, and let's hope it will continue.
They are ranked very close each to the other in the FIFA lists. Brazil ranked 9th in the world, Portugal ranked 7th at the moment. Brazil certainties, of course, to be at their own World Cup. Portugal altogether less certain. Their last meeting in Durban at the 2010 World Cup was a horrible anticlimax. Actually, it ended 0-0. It had become meaningless. But this really appears to be dripping with meaning, despite the fact it is labelled a friendly. Their other major competitive meeting was at the 1966 World Cup at Goodison Park, Liverpool. Portugal beat Brazil by 3-1. Eusebio scored a couple of those. Brazil that year, catastrophically for them, knocked out in the group stage. Portugal famously went on to the semi-final, where they were beaten by England. That is all ancient history. Brazil have qualified for every World Cup before and since. Portugal have qualified for the last 5 European Championships and the last 4 World Cups. The only event they've missed since beginning that run in England at Euro 96 was the French World Cup of 1998. And of the 8 tournaments for which they've qualified over the last 20 years, they've reached the knockout stage in 7. They've reached the last 4 in 4 of them, including the 2006 World Cup in Germany. So Portugal, over the last generation, have been major contenders. Last 16 in South Africa, where they lost to Spain again in the semi-finals of the most recent European Championships. And here they are again, emerging with broadly the same personnel as began the first half.
There's a lot of youngsters, Brazilian supporters, who are sporting Neymar haircuts. I believe that they follow him, and should he change it after this game, there'll be a roaring trade for the hairstylists in Brazil, because if he's not already a hero, which undoubtedly he is, he certainly will be after that goal.
Absolutely so. Well, João Pereira began the game intent on stopping him, whatever it took. It took a yellow card. Pepe has been withdrawn and is being replaced in the heart of Portuguese defence by Luis Neto, who plays his club football in Russia with Zenit St. Petersburg. It was in St. Petersburg that Russia beat Israel earlier today, to Portugal's detriment. Who has also performed in Serie A with Siena. And at the end of a half-time interval, which lasted a full 20 minutes, that's friendlies for you. They should be refreshed and ready to go again. It was hammer and tongs before the break. Now they seek to rediscover the momentum and intensity that made it such a very good watch.
Much of the same, please. That's all we can ask.
Morelos. Coentrao. Fiorinha. Got it back from Morelos. By Thiago Silva, whose towering header drew Brazil level. Luis Neto for the first time. João Pereira. Nani. And he skipped his way into something that approximated to a shooting position. It was a little ambitious from there.
Well, it's fabulous balance from Nani, and then with time and space, you would just expect him to get that on target, just to test Julio Cesar. You can see when he strikes it, the ball's moving, and that would be difficult for the goalie to deal with if it was on target.
There'll be a lot of English football fans watching this, amused, perhaps surprised to see Julio Cesar remains Brazil's #1 goalkeeper when he is second or perhaps even third choice at an English championship club. Queen's Park Rangers behind Rob Green, perhaps behind Brian Murphy. But actually, he continues to perform for Brazil to an extremely high standard, had an excellent Confederations Cup. Made a couple of key penalty saves in the semi-final, saved one from Diego Forlan of Uruguay in the final, kept one out from Sergio Ramos for Spain. Mind you, I could have kept goal against Australia the other day. It would have remained a clean sheet.
You wouldn't have had to touch the ball.
No. I think so. I hope he paid for his ticket. Coentrao.
But this is a totally different proposition this evening.
Absolutely. Coentrao caught from behind by Ramirez. And shown a yellow card, the Chelsea man, because of that challenge. Much more than an entanglement. You have to catch the referee's eye. And, goes in to get his pencil out. Here's Fiorinha. Ramirez protected it well. Scored by Luis Gustavo. Fetched by Bruno Alves. Veloso. Aimed up towards Nani. Cleared by Luis. Won by Ramirez. Bernard. Joe. Paulinho. Neymar. That's a really clever ball, and Joe will finish. Beautifully constructed again by Brazil. The simplest part was Joe's application of the final touch. Maxwell having been sumptuously slipped in by Neymar. And Brazil have a 2-goal advantage now. And Joe just can't help himself. The resurrection of his international career goes on apace, and Paulo Bento has problems.
Well, 2 at the weekend for Joe, and this is an easy one for him to finish, but it all started with Ramirez winning the ball on the halfway line. The counter-attack was swift, and when Maxwell gets to the byline, Joe's in the right place. Beautifully weighted pass by Neymar. Great cross, picking out Joe centrally from Maxwell, and he just bundles it over the line to give Brazil a 3-1 lead.
Joe is in a very happy habit at the moment of being the right fella at the right time in the right place. It's, as you know better than anyone, Clive, what centre-forwards have to have that habit, but he scored a couple of goals in the Confederations Cup as a very late substitute, just by having a nose for goal. 2 against Australia on Saturday. That's Paulinho getting himself into trouble, arriving late at the feet of
It's certainly a good habit to get into when you consider, obviously, the competition for places. And as you said earlier, Fred probably the first choice at centre forward, but Joe's doing his credentials, no harm whatsoever.
There goes Neymar again. He's carried it 50, 60 yards before having his ankle tapped by Veloso.
He's going at such speed. That's the thing, Peter. Any sort of contact, and he will undoubtedly be tripped or will fall over. You can see quick feet, but running at speed, and his right ankle's clipped as he's trying to cut back inside and drive, and there we go, over he goes.
Going forward for Joe again, bounced kindly off the back of Bruno Alves. Steered quickly out for Coentrao. Fiorinha. Gathered for Brazil by Gustavo. Ramirez is sent spinning. Luis has the ball, his clubmate.
You saw a very quick glimpse of Paulo Bento when that third goal went in, and I'm sure he's just wondering, he doesn't want to be on the end of a heavy defeat here tonight. His team's performed well in the first half, but he knows what he's up against and what his team have to stop that force of Neymar at the moment and the fluidity of Brazil. He won't want them to concede anymore.
And that's why I wonder, Clive, it may be that events proved me wrong, but I wonder whether he might resist the temptation to make wholesale changes, because there's a big gap between the 11 he has on the field and the substitutes he has available in terms of experience. Postiga is the one exception to that, the player who was sent off in Belfast over the weekend, but beyond him, with Ronaldo missing, there's no outfield player with more than 8 caps to his name who's available. There are 2 or 3 potential midfield debutants. Whether this is the right time to give them their chance, well, he'll have to make that judgment.
Yeah, and that would be a big call to throw a young player into this sort of environment.
Bernard, oh, what a beautiful touch, running at Coentrao, whose tackle is very well timed.
Very, very good defending from Coentrao, because he knows the trickery that Bernard possesses, and he knows he has to stay on his feet, which is exactly what he did. He may well have just tweaked a groin there as he made that challenge, and immediately he's walking very gingerly. I wouldn't be surprised if he's coming out of this game.
Well, do you know what? That is a big problem for Real Madrid, because Marcelo is missing this game, injured. A Brazilian left-back from the same club. And now Coentrao goes off. And that's a big part of the dynamic for the upcoming weekend in La Liga. Perhaps Gareth Bale will have to play left-back again.
Oh, he can't play left back. You can't play that much money for a left back.
And Túnez is...
Mind you, Peter, I've got to say, on the other hand, you'd play anywhere in that Real Madrid side given the opportunity. And Gareth would, I'm sure, play left back should he be asked to.
It would be funny, wouldn't it? After his great metamorphosis from left back to one of the great attacking players in the European game, if that was required of him. Anyhow, that's another story. Neymar.
But it's a distinct possibility.
Neto away. Nani fighting for it. Túnez, who's Malaga's left-back, having arrived from Benfica in January of this year to replace Nacho Monreal when he disappeared to Arsenal.
He followed Coentrao at Benfica. It's a production line of left-backs from that particular club.
Moutinho, Oliveira, Antunes, Raul Meireles, spread for Nani, Luis clear, Gustavo Strong, and a way out for Maxwell again. And a gorgeous take from Neymar, though this time Veloso got back to spoil the moment, as he's entitled to do. Meireles, Moutinho, hurried up by Bernard.
And there he is winning the ball back, Neymar. For all his quality on the ball, you can see he still has that work ethic as well to, whenever there's the opportunity to go and close down and win it back, he's just showed that.
Maxwell, Neymar, Paulinho. Carried out by Nani. Oliveira. Moutinho. Meireles. Fiorinha. Luis strong through the back of Nelson Oliveira.
He always looks so amazed that a free kick's been given against him. He charges into the back of Oliveira, a tackle from behind. In the rules of the game, you can't do that. He's kicked the back of his calf, and then he looks at the referee in disgust as if to say, what have I done? I didn't touch him, I didn't do anything.
Another Portuguese change here, that is Ruben Amorim, another Benfica player, who came for the first time into the international setup at the last World. For which Brazil are constructing a pretty substantial wall. Nani got it up, but couldn't get it to come down again.
Yeah, it's one of those, so many players now are striking through the middle of the ball to get that movement and dip, but on this occasion he doesn't quite get that to come down quick enough to trouble the goalkeeper.
But, here is the change. It's João Moutinho who gives way. Some of these alterations may very well be preordained, a result of conversations with club managers, negotiations.
A lot of negotiating goes on when it comes, especially when it comes to a friendly game like this. Obviously, when they're World Cup qualifiers, it's they don't really have any jurisdiction to ask the coaches to play players for certain amounts of time. But in a game like this, there will be a number of coaches that will be speaking with the national coaches to just limit maybe the amount of match time that they're playing.
Ramirez. Of course, Paulo Bento, the Portuguese coach, is a Sporting Lisbon man, so good of him to be helping out Benfica by allowing João Moutinho time off. Ramirez is also relieved of his duties now, which will please Mr. Mourinho, although his replacement works for the same employer. It's Oscar, and actually his appearance won't worry Mourinho or Chelsea either, because he's been injured and could possibly do with a little bit of game time.
Yes, and maybe there's a discussion has taken place today with Mourinho, perhaps suggesting that Oscar gets a little bit of time, and at the expense of Ramirez, who's a constant fixture in this side.
Oscar has been an ever-present in the Premier League so far under Jose Mourinho. Maicon. Boisterous run. Almost came back to Oscar. Sorted out though by Amorim. And now Antunes. So 3 Portuguese changes already. 2 a matter of choice, one assumes. Neto centre-half and Amorim in midfield. Antunes came on for the injured Coentrão. Just 1 change for Brazil, and not one you would have to say that ought to break up their fluidity. Oscar, a member of their regular Confederations Cup 11.
Yeah, without a doubt, very much, you would say, one of the first picks that Scolari will always look to include in his team, his starting 11.
Neymar. Put in Maxwell, away by Pereira, Luis. Neymar.
But when you talk about the options that Paulo Bento has, and the difference for Scolari with players like Fred, Hulk, Pato, who are options, you have to say, of the highest quality.
Brazil do have a second 11. And our worry for Portugal and Paulo Bento, with respect, is that possibly they don't in quite the same way. Very, very good first 11. Neto.
The third goal has definitely coincided with the tempo, the intensity of the game, just dropping a little. Obviously, I think Brazil comfortable with their lead and probably just protecting it a little bit rather than pushing on to add to that 3 goals they've scored.
Nani challenging it. Maicon dispossessing him. Here's Antunes. Nani. Maicon stood in the way of the pass. Oscar nicked it clear, but not very far clear. Veloso. Moreles. Strong turn from Oliveira. Strong turn from Vieirinha. Antunes. Best spell for a while from Portugal. Moreles. Nani. Nani went to ground, and Portugal have another free kick.
Yeah, and it was Gustavo who just, I think, got a bit frustrated with the controlled possession that Portugal had and dived in on Nani as he just turned the ball round the corner. Philip Scolari's not happy because it's just a rash challenge. He kicks through Nani and gives away a free kick in a really dangerous area, something you certainly wouldn't do if Ronaldo was in the side.
Well, Bruno Alves can give it a clatter from here. Seen that before. Nani is the likelier striker. They'd all fancy a rare crack at it in the absence of Cristiano Ronaldo. Don't often get a turn. It's Nani, same problem.
He needs to get back on the training ground and practice those free kicks, because has 2 good opportunities he's had. And his technique has let him down badly on both occasions. Not even close.
Free kick against Joe. Amorim. Neto. Alves.
It's interesting to see Philip Scolari down here on the touchline. He's just organising his team. I think he's looking at them defensively to see how they can shape up, see how they can defend against Portugal when a team has possession against you, which definitely happens and will happen during the World Cup come next summer. He's just working on a few little things and getting a good insight into the way that his team, or he will want his team to shape up and defend against a team who has possession.
Lazio's Hernandez is awaiting his chance. Again, he was an option that Scolari used on just a couple of occasions in the Confederations Cup, and he never let the manager down. Paulinho, Joe. First up, Bruno Alves for Brazil's throw. As we roll up towards the three-quarter mark in the game. Another natural punctuation point where changes might be made, and indeed are. It's Bernard who comes off. After another eye-catching display, to be replaced by Hernandez, who's had quite an interesting start to the Serie A season. Scored a goal against Udinese for Lazio on the opening weekend, and then was sent off at Juventus, the second domestic game of the campaign. Is welcomed to the game by Nani.
Yeah, just taking probably too many touches, and Nani wasn't going to allow him to do that, although he does clatter into Hernandez, and as you rightly say, welcome to the game.
Maxwell. Held in by Joe for Paulinho. He'd taken up a good position there.
It was a fantastic run by Paulinho. The ball was built up down the left-hand side, and he attacks in behind the defence. Great run. He's looking for options centrally, and there's no one there, so he tries to cut back on his right foot, waiting for support.
Neymar's corner. Bruno Alves with thumping header away. Oscar. Shifted wide again, but too far in advance of Neymar, who in any case was offside.
Yeah, just a little bit slow coming back from the earlier corner.
Here comes Postiga, who rather let himself down in Belfast with that red card, which could easily have cost Portugal critical World Cup qualifying points. His teammates and Northern Ireland, to a certain extent, let him off the hook. And he comes on for Pereira, which, on the face of it, is a very attacking change. I dare say there'll be a little bit of a reshuffle.
Heldo's a really talented young player. Obviously didn't quite cut it with us at Spurs when he was in London, but wherever he's been since has had a good goal-scoring record, and in particular for the national team.
Just going to make that point, Clive, actually. His contribution to this qualifying campaign has eclipsed Ronaldo. Ronaldo's just got one, and Postiga, who's immediately linking up there with Oliveira, has scored 5 goals in qualifying. Actually, in 5 different matches, he's scored against all 5 of Portugal's opponents in their qualification group on separate occasions.
And plying his trade in Spain, I believe, now.
Yeah, he is with Valencia, where he's begun really well. 3-3 as the direct replacement, I suppose, for Soldado, who's come to Tottenham.
Maybe just a bit too early in his career, his arrival in London.
Here's Paulinho, who's followed him to London and who wins a corner. Last off Bruno Alves.
I have to say that's a great strength of Paulinho's. A number of times when play builds up, he's prepared to make those runs and get himself forward into advanced positions. As a midfield player, very, very difficult to pick up.
Oscar to take inside the last 20 minutes. Joe waiting. Out by Morelos. Back in by Thiago Silva. Bruno Alves heading it away from his own goalkeeper. Here's Hernanes. Luis in the left wing position. Hernanes had a pop.
Well, he wasn't pressed, there was no pressure, and he had the opportunity to get a sighter, and he took it.
Postiga. The move to Valencia this summer from Zaragoza. As Clive says, part of his past was spent at Spurs. He has also played for two of the major clubs in Portugal, Sporting Lisbon and Porto.
One of the unfortunate things that happened to him, one of his first games with Spurs, was in a North London derby, and he missed a glorious opportunity with a game at 0-0. And he never really recovered from that in his time with us at Spurs. Amazing how incidents in your career can pay a big price.
Now Morelos by Thiago Silva. Clear only as far as Morelos again. Now Nani. He's got under it and skewed it rather nastily.
Well, he's had two attempts with his right foot from free kicks. On this occasion, great footwork to work the shooting opportunity on his left, but this time he just completely slices the shot. Great the way he rolls, and again, it's almost like he's chipping the ball away. Instead of driving through it, he goes completely underneath it, high and wide.
Frustrating night for him, a night that has just more than a quarter of an hour to run. Coming for you on BT Sport on Friday from the Skrill Premier. It is Wrexham against Luton, two major clubs in that league who've known better days. 7 o'clock Friday night. And there's Oscar going in, away by Bruno Alves.
Brilliant work from Neymar once again. He had two defenders in front of him, and he just had to wait for the arrival of Oscar as Postiga picks up a yellow card.
Capturing the sometimes tetchy mood of the night with an untidy challenge on Thiago Silva. And another Brazilian change, which sees Joe withdrawn and replaced by Alexandre Pato, who is to some extent recently reborn, enjoying his time back with Corinthians. Scored a couple of goals in a 4-0 win against Flamengo on the the Sunday before the international break, scored again against Australia on Saturday.
Incredible amount of quality Philip Scolari has to pick on when he's making changes like that.
Interesting to see whether there's still a potential for Kaká to get back into his squad as well. He's round the edges, just gone back to Milan, as we know, where he might play a bit more football. Hulk and Fred very much a part of the plans. Here's Nani, back by Vieirinha. Fouled by Paulinho on Veloso.
Again, that intensity in closing down when there's an opportunity to go and win it back. You know, for all the beautiful football that they play, they work so hard in trying to retrieve the ball as well.
Lifted in towards Bruno Alves, who just mistimed his leap, so it didn't quite dovetail ideally with the arrival of the ball.
I think the cross was just coming in behind him, so he couldn't actually get any purchase on the header, ended up deflecting it, and obviously wide of the goal.
Forward by Maicon. Neymar, I think, was aware he was offside, so checks his run. And here's Neto. Veloso. Over the top for Vieirinha, who's kept it alive and delivered a half-decent ball towards Nani as he dashed at the near post, and Thiago Silva had to get horizontal to see it behind.
And an important interception by Thiago Silva, because as that's whipped in, Nani is certainly arriving to be on the end of the cross for Vieirinha. Gets just goal side of Luiz and would have been on the end of it had it not been for Silva's header.
Veloso's corner. Dealt with by Hernanes. Lifted forward by Luis. Ruben Amorim. There's Amorim. Forward by Neto. So Luis steered it back to Julio Cesar. Italy and Brazil have been pretty good defensively over the course of their build towards the World Cup. A series of clean sheets through June. Conceded 2 against Italy in the quarter-final, or in the last group game of the Confederations Cup, 1 in the semi-final to Uruguay. Clean sheet against Spain, let one slip against Switzerland, barely troubled by the Australians, and just conceding the 1 here as a result of Maicon's misjudgment early in the game. Bento taking charge of his 35th game with Portugal tonight. A pretty good win percentage. He's won 19 of the first 34. He'll do well to make that 20 here. Hernández.
It does go without saying that when you have a player of Ronaldo's quality that you are going to miss him, and I think that's been evident tonight. They just haven't had that something a little bit special, something different that could have perhaps made this game a little bit closer. Brazil have had this young man who's happy to shoot from the halfway line as well, full of confidence.
Saw on the touchline there was Enrique of Palmeiras. Might be broadly familiar to you. He has played a bit of football in Europe, was at Barcelona briefly without impacting, but went from there to Bayer Leverkusen and on to Santander before returning to Palmeiras, which was his first club. Amorim. Raul Meireles, that's a decent try.
Well, he's been Portugal's biggest threat all night long. And when he works this onto his left foot, he's looking for options, and then all of a sudden decides to take on the shot. And he strikes it really well. Maybe just touched Luiz on the way through, and had it not have done, would have been on target.
Gives way to Enrique. It's only his third cap, his first two of 5 years apart. His debut in 2008 and not capped again until earlier this year. Now's not a bad time to be surging into the picture. Neymar. Maicon. Neymar.
Alves has been in the thick of the action all night long, totally committed.
Oliveira looking to slip Raul Meireles in behind. Enrique involved for the first time. Portuguese corner. Before which, more action from the bench. And this is a debut in place of Vieirinha for number 10. Who is rising there at the near post, potentially to meet the corner. The man from Porto, 24 years old, just joined the big club from Estoril. Alves in trouble again. Extraordinary to note he hasn't even been booked yet in this game.
Peter, I was just going to say...
He has now.
It must be a culmination of offences, because that again was a wild challenge by Alves, whipping the legs of Oscar away. Sorry, not Oscar.
Hernández.
Wow. Dangerous. Right on the back of his right knee. And,
bound to say that if it was a competitive game, he would not still be with us.
I think he'd be sitting in the bath.
Bento just might be a shade disturbed at the extent of the gap in the end between the two teams. Brazil have eased away. The scoreline is a reasonable reflection. by Nani, by Enrique. Ruben Amorim. Lika. Charging out with it is Maicon. And with a fair degree of purpose. Luis Gustavo. Neymar. Has he got one more memorable moment? He's got one more clever step over. Now you see me, now you don't. Ruben Amorim ran out of legal ideas, so had to revert to the plain illegal.
Well, I thought initially the skill was fantastic. I think here he's trying something outrageous, to be perfectly honest, and that was why Amorim eventually struck out and certainly caught him. Late challenge. But how difficult is this young man to contain?
Tried that in the back garden in the morning. He's behind the free kick. Run in again by Thiago Silva. No problem for Patricio, who sets Raul Morelos on his way again. Postiga, who's hardly had a chance to impact. Lika. Veloso. Shot struck Nani from Oliveira. Amorim. Morelos, cleared by Maicon. Morelos once more, and Nani. We'll have another change as the game winds down, rather. It's Lucas Moura of Paris Saint-Germain. A change intended to give Neymar his own ovation. And you can hear it.
Well, he certainly showed the public some sublime skills this evening. Outstanding performance, capped off with the most memorable goal.
Well, he's the guy who's going to have to bear the pressure of being World Cup 2014's poster boy. All the pre-publicity will surround him. He'll have the big broad smile, the fancy haircut, the goals, the talent, and all of the expectation that goes with it. But he seems to be able to cope with it.
Certainly on tonight's evidence, it's going to be an exciting season, first and foremost at Barcelona, and then with a World Cup to come in his own country.
Lucas Moura. Got it back from Gustavo. Fed it to Hernanes. Maxwell. Enrique. Suddenly a rather unfamiliar Brazilian lineup. Lucas Moura. Familiar Brazilian skills, though. And Bruno Alves had to be aware.
Well, he tried an outrageous back heel, and he just didn't quite get enough contact on it. Because had he done, I think he'd have put Pato in.
And that is the lot. It's been a mightily competitive game and a mightily engrossing watch. And Brazil have underlined again that they are finding momentum at just the right time. Scolari and Bento with much mutual admiration and indeed affection. They are good friends. Neymar standing with them, the standout player of the night, and it was he who most decorated a 3-1 win for Brazil, which will delight their coach, albeit at the expense of his close ally there, Bento. So here are the moments that made it, Clive.
Thiago Silva comes in with a fantastic header to get Brazil back in the game after Morelos has opened the scoring for Portugal. And then the wonder boy himself produces a memorable goal. Great skill, pace, power and balance.
And then in the second half, after Maxwell was put in, Joe was given the simple task of rounding it off. As the sun sets in Foxborough, Boston, USA, and it prepares to rise in the United Kingdom, we've been delighted to watch a most engrossing game which finished 3-1 in favour of Brazil.